Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, the sharp crystal sound slicing through the hushed murmurs of the gala like a guillotine blade, but I couldn't look down at the mess I'd made because my eyes were locked on the man standing at the top of the grand staircase. 7 years. It had been 7 agonizing years of silence, of scraping by, of convincing myself that I was nothing more than a footnote in his grand life. Yet there he stood, clothed in a midnight blue tuxedo that cost more than my entire education, a woman on his arm who looked like royalty, and a gaze so cold it could freeze hell over. He didn't just walk into the room. He owned the air we breathed, sucking the oxygen out of my lungs until I was choking on the ghost of a promise made by 2 foolish boys who thought love could conquer a university entrance exam. I was supposed to be invisible tonight. Just a junior architect's assistant, holding the portfolio, standing in the shadows while my boss groveled for funding. But fate, cruel and mocking, had other plans. Mr. Sterling, my boss, Mr. Vance hissed, nudging my ribs with his elbow. Pull yourself together. That is the CEO of Calum Group. If we lose this bid because you're clumsy, you're fired. I scrambled to pick up the shards of glass, slicing my thumb in the process. A drop of bright crimson welled up, a stark contrast to the pristine white floor. Leave it, a voice commanded. The room went dead silent. The heavy, polished leather shoes stopped inches from my kneeling form. I knew that voice. It was deeper now, stripped of the youthful warmth that used to whisper secrets into my ear on the school rooftop, but the cadence was unmistakable. I looked up. Alaric Calum, formerly just Alaric, the boy who shared my wired earphones, stared down at me. His face was a masterpiece of sharp angles and aristocratic indifference, but his eyes, dark as obsidian, burned with a terrifying intensity. Stand up, he ordered. It wasn't a request. I rose on shaky legs, clutching my bleeding thumb. Mr. Calum, I managed to whisper, the name tasting like ash in my mouth. Julian, he acknowledged, the syllables rolling off his tongue with a familiarity that felt like a violation in this sterile setting. He didn't look at my boss. He didn't look at the crowd. He looked only at me, and then at the blood dripping from my hand. It seems you're still making messes you can't clean up. The humiliation was instant, hot, and suffocating. The crowd tittered. My boss looked ready to faint. I apologize, sir, I murmured, staring at his tie knot. I'll excuse myself. No, Alaric said, stepping closer, invading my personal space until I could smell the distinct scent of sandalwood and rain. The same scent he wore in high school, only now refined, expensive, and intimidating. Mr. Vance, is it? Your firm is bidding for the Seaside Villa project. Yes, Mr. Calum, an honor to, I'll accept the bid, Alaric interrupted, his eyes never leaving my face. On one condition. Julian is the lead architect. He reports directly to me. Daily. My head snapped up. I'm not licensed yet. I can't. Then you'd better learn fast. Alaric said, leaning in so his breath brushed my ear, sending a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with a dormant, treacherous desire. You owe me, Julian. You owe me 7 years. The Calum Group headquarters was a fortress of glass and steel piercing the skyline, a testament to the power Alaric had amassed while I was busy failing. I stood in the elevator, watching the numbers climb. 450. 460. My reflection in the metal doors looked haggard. Cheap suit, dark circles under my eyes, a bandage on my thumb. I was the embodiment of mediocrity. We had been inseparable once. The scholarship student and the heir, hiding in the library stacks, fingers laced together. We had a plan. We would both get into the prestigious St. Jude's University. We would be roommates. We would figure out how to navigate his family's expectations together. But the acceptance letter came for him, and the rejection letter came for me. I remembered the shame, the way it hollowed me out. I couldn't face him. I couldn't bear to be the anchor dragging him down. But before I could even formulate a goodbye, he was gone. His parents sent him to London the next day. No text. No call. Just the rumors that he had left to pursue his destiny, leaving the failure behind. The elevator dinged at the penthouse level. The door slid open to reveal a sprawling office that looked more like a throne room. Alaric sat behind a massive desk of black oak, silhouetted against the panoramic view of the city. "You're late," he said, not looking up from his tablet. "I'm 5 minutes early," I countered, my grip tightening on my sketchbook. In my world, early is on time, and on time is late. But I suppose discipline was never your strong suit. If it were, perhaps you would have passed your exams. The words were a precision strike. I froze, the old wound ripping open. "Is that why you brought me here? To mock me? You could have just left me in the past, Alaric." He finally looked up, and the raw anger in his expression took me aback. He stood, rounding the desk with a predatory grace. "Left you? You think I left you? You went to London." I snapped, the resentment of 7 years bubbling over. "You didn't even say goodbye. You just vanished because I wasn't good enough for your world anymore." Alaric laughed, a harsh, dry sound. He stopped in front of me, towering over my frame. "Is that the story you told yourself to sleep at night? That I abandoned you because you failed a test?" He reached out, his fingers gripping my chin, forcing me to look at him. His touch was scorching. "I wrote to you, Julian. Every day for 6 months. I called. I sent emails. And then..." His jaw tightened. "Then my father showed me the bank transfer." I frowned, confusion warring with the adrenaline. "What bank transfer?" "The $5 million transferred to your mother's account. The price of your silence. The price of you walking away." The world tilted on its axis. My mother? Don't play innocent," Alaric sneered, dropping his hand as if burned. "My father paid you off. You took the money, and you ghosted me. I came back to find you living the high life, but imagine my surprise when I find you as a lowly assistant. Did you spend it all? Did you gamble it away? My mother died 7 years ago," I screamed. The silence that followed was absolute. Alaric froze, his mask of arrogance cracking for a fraction of a second. "What?" I was shaking, tears of rage pricking my eyes. "The surgery. She had a brain aneurysm the week after the exams. She needed emergency surgery. We didn't have the money. Then suddenly, the hospital said a donor had covered it. An anonymous donor." My voice broke. "She died on the table anyway." I looked at Alaric, horror dawning on me. "Your father? He paid for the surgery? He told me he paid you to leave me," Alaric whispered, the color draining from his face. "He showed me a contract with your signature. I signed a liability waiver at the hospital." I choked out. "I signed. God, I signed so many papers that week." I was 18 and terrified. The realization hit us both like a physical blow. There had been no betrayal. There had been no abandonment. There had only been a cruel, calculated manipulation by a man who viewed his son's heart as a liability and my existence as a stain. Alaric stumbled back, leaning against his desk, his hand covering his mouth. The monster he had painted me to be, the gold digger who broke his heart, evaporated, leaving only the boy who had lost everything. "I hated you," Alaric said, his voice trembling. "For 7 years, I used that hate to build this empire. I wanted to be so powerful that no one could ever buy anything from me again. I came back to hire you, to make you work for me, to make you feel small. You succeeded," I whispered, wiping a tear from my cheek. "I feel very small, Alaric. I always have." He moved before I could react. In 2 strides he was in front of me, his hands cupping my face, his thumbs wiping away the moisture. The cruelty was gone, replaced by a desperate, agonizing hunger. "I didn't know," he rasped. "Julian, I swear. I didn't know about her." "It doesn't matter," I said, trying to pull away, though my body betrayed me, leaning into his touch. "We're different people now. You're a CEO. I'm a dropout." "Stop it," he commanded, but his voice was soft, pleading. "Do you think I care about a degree? I cared about you. I went to London because my father told me if I didn't, he'd ensure no university in the country accepted you. I left to save your future. And I stayed away," I admitted brokenly, "because I thought you finally realized I wasn't worth the trouble. You were the only thing worth any trouble." He kissed me then. It wasn't gentle. It was a collision of 7 years of grief, misunderstanding, and repressed longing. He kissed me like a drowning man finding air, his teeth clashing against mine, his hands gripping my waist to pull me flush against his tailored suit. I grabbed his lapels, anchoring myself as the world spun. It was a kiss that tasted of salt and champagne, of lost time and desperate reclamation. He broke the kiss, resting his forehead against mine, both of us panting. The project, he murmured against my lips. The seaside villa. I can't do it, Alaric. I'm not qualified. You are the only one qualified, he insisted, his eyes dark and possessive. Because the villa isn't for a client. It's for us. It's the house we drew on napkins in the cafeteria. Remember? The one with the studio facing the ocean. I gasped. He had kept the napkin sketches? I'm going to ruin you, Julian, he promised, a dangerous glint returning to his eyes. But this time, it was heated, intimate. I'm going to keep you here, in this office, in my life, until I make up for every single second we lost. You aren't going anywhere. Do you understand? Is that an order, Mr. Calum? I asked, a breathless challenge. It's a promise, he growled, lifting me up effortlessly to sit on the edge of his mahogany desk, scattering the multi-million-dollar contracts to the floor. We were foolish then, but I'm not foolish now. I'm never letting you go again. Outside, the city lights flickered like distant stars, witnessing the moment two broken halves finally fused back together. The exams, the degrees, the status, none of it mattered in the high-altitude silence of the penthouse. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Alaric take control, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a lover who spent 7 years hating you based on a lie? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,